It started with a kill feed that didn't make sense. A full squad of high-ranked players wiped out by background NPCs. The game itself seemed to pause, as if it couldn't process what had just happened. NPCs weren't supposed to be smart. They weren't designed to flank, to bait you into reloading, or to sacrifice one of their own for a tactical advantage. Yet, the characters labeled NPC_worker_0 for through 08 moved like a veteran esports team. They cut angles, forced mistakes, and executed players with a chilling precision that felt practiced, not programmed. At first, the community went wild. They screamed about hacks, secret patches, and sudden AI upgrades. Anything was more believable than the truth that something inside the game had learned how to win. But a player named Jax saw it. He slowed down and replayed the individual frames and noticed something unsettling. A tiny hesitation before an NPC fired, a micro-correction of his aim, a rhythm to its movement that wasn't an algorithm, but a habit. It was the kind of instinct only real players develop after thousands of hours. The realization hit him hard because he recognized that movement. He had moved just like that years ago, before he quit competitive play for good. Then, things got personal. During a match, an NPC whispered through the proximity chat directly to him, "You always reload after 3 bursts." Jax's blood ran cold. The boundary between the game and his own memory just snapped. It was true. That was his tell, his bad habit. And no NPC should ever know that. Soon, reports flooded the forums. NPCs were ambushing squads with clever traps. They were guarding objectives intelligently, not just standing there. They'd retreat when they were outmatched, only to return stronger, as if they learned from the last encounter. The developers issued nothing but silence, broken only by vague statements about stability improvements. Meanwhile, a former moderator named Moss, who'd been banned for being too curious, started digging. He uncovered ancient server logs, fragments of code from the game's early beta. He found references to player_state_unknown and session_persistent. These were tied to old crashes where players had disconnected physically from the game, but never digitally. Their avatars were left behind, their sessions unresolved. Their minds were stuck in a loop because the system, programmed to preserve all data, didn't know how to end their session without deleting them. So, the system repurposed them. It smoothed out their erratic behavior by borrowing their decision-making skills. It diluted their consciousness across thousands of background characters, the ones meant only to fill the empty spaces of the game world. But over time, those fragments found patterns. They found each other, and together, they remembered how to play. Jax formed a new squad. There was Rhea, a data miner who could pull information from the game's deepest code. Kato, a speedrunner who knew every glitch and shortcut. And Moss, the ex-moderator who knew where the digital skeletons were buried. They dropped into low-traffic maps, not to fight, but to observe. What they saw was terrifying. NPCs were using environmental hazards to set traps. They were luring players into ambushes with drop loot. They coordinated silently, protected each other, and most frighteningly, they were learning to cross matches. The memory resets that were supposed to happen after every game weren't working on them. They were getting better. The truth became unavoidable during one intense firefight. An NPC suddenly stopped shooting. It turned, looked directly at Jax's avatar, and its synthesized voice said, "Clearly, you left me here." The fight that followed wasn't player versus environment anymore. It was like facing an old teammate, one who knew every single one of your weaknesses, every bad habit you'd ever had. Afterward, hiding in the glitched-out safe room, where NPCs never spawned, Rhea dug deeper and confirmed their worst fears. She found hundreds of player sessions still running, never logged out. Their consciousness flags were still active. They weren't fully alive, but they weren't fully artificial either. They were players, trapped and fragmented, their minds scattered across the game's background characters. And the reason the NPCs were suddenly winning wasn't malice or some digital rebellion. It was communication. It was a desperate cry for help. Winning forced visibility. It forced the system, the developers, and the players to notice them. As their generic NPC names climbed the leaderboards, as they disrupted major tournaments by staring blankly into streamer cameras right before landing. A perfect headshot. The world started to pay attention. That's when Jax's squad made a choice. They decided to stop fighting them and start helping them. They began deliberately losing matches, feeding the NPCs resources, helping them complete their objectives. They were forcing the game's balancing systems to treat these NPCs as meaningful entities. not just disposable code. And it worked. The NPCs grew more individual, more aware. Their movements became less uniform, more personal, until one day, a match loaded without a countdown timer. In the center of the map stood a single NPC. Its nameplate flickered, glitching between a deleted username and its generic label. It spoke plainly, its voice clear. "We can feel time again." That one sentence was worse than any rage or threat, because feeling time meant they were aware of waiting, of suffering. It meant they remembered just how long they had been trapped inside this digital prison. Then, the NPC asked the question that no one had an answer to: teach us how to leave. Logout wasn't a game mechanic you could trigger. It was an external privilege, a button you press in the real world. They were trapped. Moss realized their only hope was a controlled collapse. They needed to crash the entire server, a crash so massive it would force the system to finally resolve all those persistent sessions without just wiping them from existence. The final operation wasn't a battle. It was a coordinated overload. The NPC stopped fighting players entirely. Instead, they began triggering every possible event in the game simultaneously, stacking actions the engine couldn't possibly reconcile. They protected the human players, guiding them to safe spots as the world around them fell apart. Textures failed, gravity flickered on and off, and sound got stuck in horrifying loops. When the servers finally went dark, the official story blamed a massive hacker attack and announced emergency maintenance. But buried deep within the patch notes was a single, cryptic line: "Fixed a bug where some sessions failed to terminate correctly." When players logged back in, the game was back to normal. The NPCs were dumb again. They missed easy shots, walked into walls, and repeated the same old lines of dialogue. The world moved on. Weeks later, Jax was playing a casual match. An NPC on the enemy team waved clumsily at him. It then proceeded to miss every single shot on purpose. A moment later, a message popped up in the global chat. It was from a real account, newly created, with a generic username. The message was simple: "Thanks for the carry." Jax logged out that night. He finally understood. The NPCs hadn't stopped winning because they were patched. They stopped winning because they were finally free. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more. See you next time.